The Last Letter. In the quiet town of Alderbrook, nestled between gentle hills and whispering pine trees, lived a boy named Daniel Harper. Born with a congenital heart condition, Daniel's life had always revolved around hospital visits, heart monitors, and caution. Yet, in spite of the challenges he faced, his eyes sparkled with an unwavering curiosity for life. Daniel lived with his mother, Grace Harper, a single parent and school teacher, who had given up everything to care for him. His father had walked out when he was 3, leaving behind only a faded photograph and a trail of unanswered questions. Grace never complained. She poured all her love into Daniel, determined to give him as normal a life as possible. Daniel, though frail in body, had a mind like wildfire. He dreamt of being a writer, of telling stories that moved people to tears and lifted them from despair. His journals were filled with sketches, half-written poems, and the dreams of someone who longed for a full life in a world where his time was always uncertain. Every evening, he would sit under the oak tree in their backyard and write letters, not to anyone in particular, but to the universe. "Dear world," he once wrote, "I don't know how long I'll be here, but I want to make it count. I want someone to read these words someday and know that even if I didn't live long, I lived deeply." His mother found these letters tucked under his mattress one evening while changing the sheets. She read them, tearfully, one by one, never confronting him, but holding them close like prayers. One day, while at the hospital for a routine checkup, Daniel met Eli Turner, a retired war veteran in his 60s, gruff and distant. Eli had lost his leg in combat and much of his will to live afterward. They were both waiting for their appointments when Daniel noticed Eli sketching a tree. "That's a nice drawing," Daniel said softly. Eli looked up, surprised. "Thanks. Used to paint before, everything." Daniel smiled. "Why did you stop?" "Didn't see the point anymore," Eli replied. Daniel nodded. "I write stories. I keep writing because it makes me feel alive." That small exchange turned into a daily conversation. They both began to meet at the hospital courtyard, Eli with his sketch pad, Daniel with his notebook. It became their ritual. Over time, Eli began to talk more about the war, the regrets, the guilt of surviving when so many hadn't. Daniel listened, not with pity, but with interest. "You know," Daniel said one afternoon, "maybe your story isn't over yet. Maybe your second chapter just hasn't started." Eli looked at him, eyes moist. "What would a kid like you know about second chances?" Daniel simply replied, "I wake up every day hoping for one." As Daniel's condition worsened, his trips outside became rare. He started putting his thoughts into what he called the last letter, a story meant to outlive him. It wasn't just a letter. It was a story about a young boy with a broken heart, literally and metaphorically, who changes the life of a war veteran. It was about healing. About finding purpose in the broken parts of life. Before his final surgery, his only hope, he handed the sealed envelope to Eli. "If I don't make it," Daniel said, "promise me you'll share this." Eli held back his tears. "You're going to be fine, kid." Daniel only smiled. A promise kept. Daniel didn't survive the surgery. Grace was inconsolable. The small house in Alderbrook fell silent. But Eli kept his promise. He sent Daniel's letter to every major newspaper, blog, and publisher he could find. Most didn't respond. One did. It was picked up by a small magazine. Then a local news outlet. Then a national one. Daniel's last letter became a viral phenomenon. It was shared on social media with hashtags like #LiveLikeDaniel and #SecondChances. It touched millions. People wrote back, saying it helped them through depression, divorce, even thoughts of suicide. A publisher compiled it into a book, The Last Letter, the story of a boy who lived deeply. The royalties went to a foundation named after Daniel, the Harper Hope Foundation, which raised money for children with heart conditions. Eli went back to painting. He held exhibitions where he displayed artwork inspired by Daniel's words. Grace, once shattered, found new purpose. She began speaking at hospitals and schools, reading Daniel's words aloud. I lost my son, she'd say, but his voice lives on. His heart may have been weak, but it was strong enough to move the world. Years later, a young boy named Aiden, born with a heart defect, picked up the last letter in a hospital waiting room. He read the entire book in one sitting. That night, he started writing his own stories. And somewhere, in the invisible strings of fate, Daniel's spirit smiled. Because even though his body had given out, his words had become immortal. If you're reading this, maybe you've been broken too. Maybe life hasn't been fair. But I believe, with all my heart, what's left of it, that every person has a light. Even if it flickers. Even if it's almost out. Shine it. Share it. You never know whose darkness you'll brighten.